The first step in any propagation project is research, reading up on articles that are relevant. And for this project, reading specifics on leaf cuttings and begonias. Finding suitable stock plant material. So, take your stock plant and give it a good look to make sure it's in good condition and good health. So you're going to want to look at your leaves and your stems more closely to see if there are any signs of pests or viruses. Now that include mealybugs, white flies, and aphids, for example. Next, you'll be needing a pair of clean scissors or a razor blade to go and cut off the plant material from your stock plant. Make one or more cuts based on the number of propagules you'll be making. Trim off any excess tissue that you won't be using for your cuttings, and then trim the cuttings to the appropriate size. Once you're ready to move on, use a clean razor blade to cut leaves into size or sizes of your choice. Then dip the cuttings into stem root number 1 for herbaceous growth to encourage adventitious root formation. In my project, I compared rooting success rates of different sizes of leaf cuttings. My control was using full leaf cuttings without the petiole. My first treatment was using half leaf cuttings. My second treatment was using cuttings that were about 3 by 4 centimeters. In my third treatment, I looked at cuttings that were 2 by 3 centimeters. My fifth treatment was looking at cuttings that were 1 by 1.5 centimeters, and my fourth treatment was 1.5 by 2 centimeters in size. The substrate I used was a mixture of perlite, vermiculite, and agromix. Here we see the control fourth and fifth treatment dipped and dibbled into the first tray. In the second tray we have half of the control and the third treatment, and in the final tray we have the first and second treatment. I'd like to draw your attention now to labeling, how important it is when you're testing a variety of different treatments in a very small space. See, here I have the treatment written on the bottom half of the label, the plant course code, and on the other side you can't see, but I have my name and some contact information in case anything rash happens to my plants if I'm not there. The next thing to consider when propagating plants is the environment, or the space in which the plants are growing. Leaf cuttings especially are prone to desiccation and water stress, so putting them in a high relative humidity environment reduces that stress and increases the chance of success. In addition to the begonia leaf cuttings, we see a number of other small sensitive plant propagules in the mist chamber. The mist chamber works by emitting a fine spray of water into the chamber at regular intervals or when the relative humidity drops below a certain point. Plants in this environment need a very well draining substrate in order to prevent anaerobic conditions and waterlogging of the roots. Over the course of my project, I visited my plants and took pictures of them regularly to be able to compare how they did from the beginning through the weeks till the end when I potted them. Notice how the condition of some of the leaves decreases as we go along, while some of them maintain a pretty good shape. And this is how these two groups looked at the end of the 8 weeks. The leaf cuttings were first introduced into the media on February 5th and kept growing in the mist frame until March 31st. If we look at the top left leaf in this tray, we notice that it gets worse and worse every time until finally we reach the end where there's not much left. Now the most drastic changes I noticed were in this tray, with half of the control and the smallest treatments 4 and 5, with the 1 by 1.5 centimeter cuttings and the 1.5 by 2 centimeter cuttings. So notice how the tissue becomes more and more brown as we go along and disintegrates more and more. When we get to the end of this, we find out that there are not many cuttings left. In fact, these are the two treatments 4 and 5 here. There's only 5 and 4 respectively left. In treatment 4, we actually had one of the cuttings that rooted, none of them in root group 5. In the control, we had some good rooting. In treatment 3, we had only callus formation, and as we move along up, we see more good rooting in the controls. And on the right-hand side, we have the half-leaf cuttings, which was the first treatment, which did also root well, and the second treatment, which had a lot of callus formation and a few that had good root formation.
Let's go.
So I'm currently mixing to make sure that all the water is imbibed into the soil. Yep.
Hold your hand up and squeeze it, and if you see a couple of drops of water come out, that means it's good.
There we go.
A little bit much there.
Yeah,
Kind of dripped out.
Alright. I'm going to put some soil into some of the pots. Just like that. So it's important to wet the media before putting anything in it, because when you water a dry substrate, all the water gets soaked up. Often the substrate will shrink, and that'll cause some displacement of your plant and make it more difficult for it to establish itself in the sufficiently moist substrate. Now when it comes to actually planting a cutting, we make a hole, a dip in the middle for the roots and the plant. Let's say I put so we see the callus there, and just gonna pinch it in place like so. Do the same with this one. Make a little hole, and then pinch it in place again, and just spread the dirt around. Soil. Voila. And finally, I'd like to give a big shout out to all of those who helped me realize my project.